Hello and welcome back to the lesson. We're continuing with the subject finance for decision making. The topic is budgeting and budgetary control. In this lesson, we're going to cover three areas. One is the purpose of budgetary control. Number two, the operation of a budgetary control system. Then three, organization and coordination of the budgeting function. We begin with the purpose of budgetary control, which is a system of management control that involves the preparation of budgets, the continuous comparison of actual performance against those budgets, and then taking corrective action to achieve the planned objectives. So that's the meaning of budgetary control. It involves preparing the budget, then comparing that budget with the actual performance, and if there is any variation, then corrective action is taken. That is the process of budgetary control. So the question now is, what is the purpose of budgetary control? Now, one purpose of budgetary control is planning, formalizing and quantifying management's financial plans and objectives for future period is the objective or the purpose of budgetary control. The second purpose is coordination. Coordination. From the word coordinate. That means ensuring that the activities of all departments like sales, purchasing, production, finance, all those departments, ensuring the purpose of budgetary control is to ensure that all those activities are synchronized and they work towards the achievement of the organizational goals. The departments must work towards achieving same organizational goals, and that is what budgetary control does. It helps in coordinating all those functions. 3, communication. Communication. That means communicating the top management's expectations and financial targets to all levels of the organization. Communication from the top management to all the lower levels of the organization is another purpose of budgetary control. Another key purpose is control. Okay, control and say performance evaluation. Budgetary control is a tool for control and also a tool for performance evaluation, because that is achieved by establishing a standard, which is a budget. This budget is a standard. Okay? A budget is like a standard against which actual results of each department is measured, and in case of any variance, then variance analysis is carried out, which involves identifying the differences and holding managers accountable. That's another purpose for budgetary control. 5, motivation. Now, motivation is made possible where the top level management and employees are involved in the process of drafting this budget, because that then provides managers and employees with a clear, quantifiable target to strive for. That motivates employees to work because there is a standard, there is a budget which they are working out to achieve together. Then lastly, corrective action. Corrective action. Budgetary control highlights deviations early in time so that management can investigate the causes of variations or variance and then take corrective, timely steps to correct operational issues and then revise future plans. So these are 6 purposes of budgetary control. Let's move to the second aspect of this lesson, which is operation of budgetary control system. Operation of budgetary control system. Operation of budgetary operation of budgetary control system. Now, a budgetary control system is a continuous cycle which involves 3 core steps. One is budgeting, monitoring, and action. To operate a budgetary control system, then there are 3 steps. The first step is to establish a budget. One, establish. That's the first step, is to establish budgets, because that is now the planning part of a budgetary control system. You must come up with the budgets. It could be sales budgets, production budgets, finance budgets, overall budgets, master budgets, and so on. So the overall company goals are translated into what we call a master budget, which is broken down into specific functional or departmental budgets. And then the budgets are set for various budget centers. And these budget centers could be departments, it could also be activities with clear financial targets and clear delegated authority. So first of all, budgets are established. To operate a budgetary control system, first of all, there has to be a establishment of budgets. This is a planning. A budget is a plan. Then the second aspect is monitoring and measuring performance. Monitor and measure. This stage is called control. This is the control stage of operation of a budgetary control system. During the budget period, the actual financial results, and this could be revenues or expenditures, these revenues and expenditures are continuously tracked and recorded using the organization's accounting system. So every expenditure is recorded. It's recorded, okay? It's recorded. You monitor every budget item. If it's salaries, if it's sales, if it's inventories, if it's materials, you have to track all the expenses through the accounting system. Then there ought to be regular intervals. At regular intervals, that has to be done at regular intervals. This tracking is done at regular intervals. You come with the total expenditure, it could be after every week, after every month, and so on. At this point, the budgets versus actual reports are prepared. What was budgeted for and the total expenditure. It could be monthly. These reports have to be prepared. That is the second step in operation of a budgetary control system. Then the third step is to analyze and take corrective action. Analyze, action. Analyzing and taking corrective action is what we call evaluation. This is the third stage in the operation of a budgetary control system, where variance analysis is performed to calculate the difference between the budgeted figures and the actual results. Because then variance will be equal to actual minus budget. And the variance here will be equal to actual minus budgeted results. Actual minus the budgeted. Actual minus budget will give us variance. We have an unfavorable variance or a favorable variance. An unfavorable variance occurs when actual costs exceed budgeted costs, or actual revenue is less than budgeted revenue. That is unfavorable. You may also have favorable variance. That is the opposite. And in case of significant variances, then investigations have to be conducted to determine the root cause. And the root cause could be poor forecasting, it could be changes in market conditions, it could be operational efficiency, and so on. After doing that, after carrying out the analysis and evaluation, then action is taken, corrective action. Here we are talking about corrective action. Management then takes corrective action to bring performance back on track. It could be cutting expenditure, improving processes. It could also be revising the budget if the original assumptions are no longer valid. So that's how a budgetary control system is operated. There are three main stages. 1, planning. 2, control. Then 3, evaluation. Is that clear, candidates? Yes, that has to be clear. Then let's move on to the organization and coordination of the budget function. Organization and coordination of the budget function. Now, the budgeting function requires a formal organizational structure and process to ensure effective coordination and compliance. So first of all, there has to be organizational structure. 1, organizational structure. And we may have under organizational structure a budget committee. Budget committee. Now, this is the core coordinating body, usually composed of senior executives like the CEO, like the CFO, and key departmental heads. Their role is to set the overall financial guidelines and also strategic objectives. Their role is also to review and approve the final budget. They also resolve interdepartmental conflicts, and they oversee the entire control process. So there has to be a budget committee under this organizational structure. Then there could be what we call budget director. A budget director, who could be the chief financial officer. All right. And here, candidates, this is just a person responsible for the administrative details of the budget process. Their role is to communicate policies, to prepare the budget calendar, to collect all departmental budgets, to consolidate them into the master budget, and also prepare performance reports. Under this structure, we may have the departmental heads or departmental managers. The structure must also comprise the departmental managers. These are the budget holders. These are the managers responsible for the activities within their specific budget centers. Their role is to prepare their departmental budgets and also to control spending within their limits and explain any variances in their performance reports. Organization and coordination of the budget function requires organizational structure as the first thing. Then there is a coordination mechanism. Coordination mechanism. So we are discussing organization and coordination of the budget function. So for coordination to be effective, you may require what we call a budget manual. Budget manual, because you recall we discussed earlier, candidates, it's not important, it's not possible to have a proper budget if the departments are not operating in harmony, because departments work together towards achieving same goal. So there has to be coordination, and for coordination to be effective, there has to be a budget manual, which is a formal document that outlines the complete budgeting process. It includes the objectives, the budget timetable, the required forms, the budget assumptions, and the responsibilities of all personnel that are involved in the budgeting process. So we have to have a budget manual, then there has to be a budget calendar. For coordination purposes, we need a budget calendar. A budget calendar is very important because this is just a timetable specifying when each step of the budget process must be completed. It ensures that all departmental deadlines are met and the final master budget is completed on time. But it's also important to note that coordination is an iterative. It is not a linear process, it is an iterative process. Budgets must be prepared in a logical and coordinated sequence. For example, the sales budget must be finalized first because it dictates the level of activity for the production budget. You cannot come up with a production budget before developing a sales budget, because what is being sold is what is produced, which in turn determines the needs for the materials and labor budgets. You cannot have a labor budget and materials budget before having a production budget. And the budget director is key in ensuring that this vertical and horizontal flow of information is made possible. So that is all, candidates, for our today's lesson. We covered 3 areas in this lesson. One is purpose of budgetary control. There are 6 objectives. 1 is in relation to planning, 2 coordination, 3 communication, 4 control and performance evaluation, 5 motivation and corrective action. Then we've discussed the operation of a budgetary control system. There are 3 main stages when operating a budgetary control system. One is a planning phase, you have the control phase and evaluation phase. Then in this lesson, we've covered organization and coordination of the budget function. We've discussed the organization. For you to have proper organization, there has to be an organization structure which comprises of the budget committee, the budget director, and departmental heads. Then in coordination, there has to be a budget manual, a budget calendar, and it's important to remember that it's an iterative process. That is all for today's lesson. In our next session, we are going to distinguish between budgeting in the private and public sectors. Bye.